Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we will start our next agenda in a few moments. Thank you. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, now we move to the fourth session, which is talk show. In this fourth session, we will invite speakers from Nanyang Technological University, Singapore, and Dresden University, and of course, Universitas Negeri Yogyakarta. The talk show will be moderated by Ibu Ella Wulandari, PhD. Ibu Ella, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mbak Putri. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, everyone, ladies and gentlemen. I know maybe some of our participants are still enjoying their lunch, but we'd like to really kindly invite you to proceed to the main room of this auditorium so we can listen together the presentations from our three renowned speakers from three different countries. All right, so again, we'd like to welcome you to the fourth talk show session, and with us here already three outstanding speakers. As mentioned by Mbak Putri already, we have the pleasure of having Prof. Menghua from Click Education, who is also now an emeritus professor at Nanyang Technological University, Singapore. We have Professor Dr. Thomas Kohler from Dresden University of Technology, Germany, and Professor Dr. Margana Emhum, MA, from Universitas Negeri Yogyakarta, Indonesia. First of all, can I ask you, ladies and gentlemen, to give our three speakers a round of applause and welcome Prof. Thomas to UNJ. As we are now in the talk show sessions, let me just share with you a little bit about this Glowship Forum. We have the participants coming from different helix partners of Universitas Negeri Yogyakarta. We have universities, we have industries, we also have government representatives, mostly come from our city, Jogja, but also across Indonesia. So we are expecting them to join us very soon as they finishing their lunch. And this session will begin with Prof. Menghua from Click Education, and again an emeritus professor at Nanyang Technological University, Singapore. In this session, Prof. would discuss or present brain-based learning, developing higher order thinking skills in the AI era. The next speaker, our Professor Dr. Thomas Kohler, will present a topic around sustainable open innovation through global cooperation, experiences and strategic directions at the intersection of technical education and labor markets, while our last speaker, Professor Dr. Margana Emhum, MA, will discuss best practices from UNJ point of view around the internationalization and cross-border partnerships. Now, I'd just like to first introduce you to the three speakers. I believe you have now been reading the short bio of our three speakers. We have Prof. who is the emeritus professor and very renowned speaker in the Singapore, in Singapore. And actually to tell you about Prof. further, Prof. He's the first Singaporean and first academic in Asia to be conferred the prestigious title of Honorary Fellow by the London-based Institution of Electrical Engineers in 2005. Is that correct, Prof? It's amazing, the contribution, the recognition that you have achieved, Prof. And we are also very much honored to have him here with us, as in 2016, he also was named one of the world's 126 most influential engineers, and in Singaporean, also by Britain's Institution of Engineering and Technology, or AIT. I believe now you are reading Prof. Sotbayu on the screen, but we should not wait for any longer, as we are very excited to have Prof's presentation on brain-based learning. You have 25 minutes, Prof. The floor is yours. Welcome, Prof. Everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Ila, for the very kind introduction. Very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is a great honor to be invited by you. It is a great honor to be invited by UNY to participate in this very important global partnership forum. In fact, I have been to Yogyakarta maybe more than 10 years ago, so it is really a pleasant experience to come back to Yogyakarta to participate in this global partnership forum. So this afternoon, what I would like to do, the title of my talk is actually Brain-Based Learning, Developing Higher Order Thinking Skill in the AI Era. So there are three important points here I would like to share. One is about brain-based learning. Second one is about higher order thinking. And third one, how are they related, especially in the era of AI revolution. Now, it is interesting that, I have two sons, actually. My second son, who worked for the Singapore Government Investment Corporation, GIC, they manage our reserve. So one day he texted me, he said that, Dad, is it true that learning is always involving the brain? So what is it so special about your brain-based learning? So I told him, I said, yeah, Wenjin, his name is Wenjin. I said, yeah, of course. Learning must always involve the brain. But when you ask this question, that means you actually miss a very important point about brain-based learning pedagogy. So what is a brain-based learning pedagogy? Well, essentially, brain-based learning is an approach to teaching and education that is actually grounded in the latest research on how the brain learns. So it actually integrates insight from neuroscience, psychology, and also cognitive science to really create the strategies and also environments so that we can actually harness how the brain can learn in the most natural way and to really take advantage to optimize the learning outcome. I think that's a key of the brain-based learning pedagogy. And it is about actually creating an environment and condition under which we can take advantage of the brain learn in the most natural way, so that we can achieve a much better learning outcome in terms of knowledge retention, in terms of how to apply the knowledge into the real world application, and so on and so forth. So I think that's the gist of this so-called brain-based learning pedagogy. And in fact, many of us are in the teaching profession, right? I have been with NTU for 38 years. I just retired about 2 years ago. Many of us have been in the teaching profession for 20, 30 years, including the school teachers. So sometimes we ask them, do you know how the brain learns? Sometimes I ask my colleague, do you know how the brain learns? They look at me and say, no, I don't know. So I say that, as a teacher, as an educator, if you do not know how the brain learns, it's a bit like you're trying to design a glove without knowing how the hands look like. So in a way, we are missing quite a big component. And I think the interesting part for me is that actually I started teaching in 1985. And my background is really in electrical engineering. I'm in the communication and signal processing area. So my early days of the mental model that I had, because I'm a communication kind of area, so my mental model was in a classroom, the teachers are like a transmitter, and then I have 100 students sitting in my class here, they are like the receivers. So in the communication principle, that what I need to do is to make sure that I speak louder, I organize my teaching material in a very logical manner and so on and so forth, easy to understand. And then I speak louder, I make sure that my students all quiet, don't speak and all that, pay attention to what I'm trying to say. So in the engineering term, we call it a maximum or high signal to noise ratio. So I just speak, I transmit, and I was expecting that every receiver will just, everything will be just going to the brain. But actually that did not take place, because I did not realize that all my 100 receiver here, everyone has a different decoding circuit. Everyone has a different decoding circuit. So what it means actually that, in fact, if you have 100 students sitting in your class, every student actually come with them with a different kind of prior knowledge. Because that's where I talk about decoding circuit. So when you try to talk about the same curriculum, same materials across, of course some better ones will be able to understand what you are talking about, because their foundation, their background will be much better compared to some of the more weaker students. So that's precisely the challenge of teaching in the mass kind of scenario. Every brain is different. In fact, that is a very important principle of the brain-based learning. Okay, every brain is different. So, but now of course I've been working into this brain-based learning kind of area for the last 15 years. My background is in engineering, but I got interested in this because I was at one time deputy president in charge of undergraduate education. I was very much interested to see how I can develop strategy to help my students to develop higher order thinking skill. And that's where I went into this area myself, and I've been doing a lot of this reading and all that. I'm not a researcher in terms of brain-based learning, but I'm a practitioner. So I use the research finding from all this cognitive psychology and neuroscience to develop strategy that I can help the student to learn much better, much deeper. And I tell you, if in the learning process, if students are not able to retain the knowledge in the long-term memory, I'm sorry, there's really no learning. So in other words, if the knowledge is not retained in the long-term memory, there will be no learning. And I think later part I will elaborate why this learning process is so complicated. But I think as teacher, if we are aware about this, then we can be more mindful, we can develop our strategy to help our students to learn deeply. Okay, so that's the gist of my talk. Okay, and then why higher order thinking, right? Higher order thinking is actually getting important, right? In fact, in the age of AI revolution, we have to really nurture our students to have this higher order thinking skill so they can be better than the AI. In future, AI will be with us forever, and we have to be better than AI, not in terms of the computational capability, but in terms of the thinking ability. You know, in future, you can ask AI for anything, they can give you a different option. You must, in ability to say that this option is no good. This option may be good, but not good enough. I will need to take the option and improve it further. That's a way we should actually develop moving forward. So let me move on very quickly to the importance of higher order thinking skill. Okay. Now, higher order thinking, I'm referring to the cognitive process that go beyond just a basic memorization, recall, or understanding of facts. It actually involves the more complex way of using our mind to analyze, to evaluate, to create new things, okay? And so this is actually very much in line with our real life kind of, decision process, the critical thinking, the problem solving, right? And this is actually very much also in line with the Bloom taxonomy, the 6th level of a thinking skill, from remembering, understanding, applying, to analyzing, evaluating, and creating. Okay, so we are talking about the higher level of the thinking process. Okay, and why is this important? Because we know that in the age of AI, a lot of this routine stuff will be actually automated by AI. All right. And also for the future ready skill, I think we have to really prepare our next generation to be adaptable, to be innovative, so that they can actually adapt to the emerging job markets and so on and so forth. So therefore, in terms of education, we really have to take a paradigm shift. You know, the current model whereby it is based on teaching for testing kind of a model is no longer valid in this AI revolution. And for the importance of higher order thinking is even more crucial. And this slide, what I have, okay. So this slide is actually I took from the World Economic Forum. So World Economic Forum has identified 10 top skills for 2025. It's interesting that if you look at this 10 top skills, we have analytical thinking and innovation, and then adaptive learning and learning strategy, complex problem solving, critical thinking and analysis, creativity, originality, initiative, leadership, and social influence, technology use, monitoring and control, technology design and programming, resilience, stress tolerance and flexibility, reasoning, programming, problem solving, and ideation. Right? All this, to me, they are part and parcel of the higher order thinking skill. And the most interesting part is actually that the World Economic Forum has identified active learning and learning strategy for the first time as one of the important skills, okay, for the 2025. All right? So let me move on I will not go into too much detail into these 12 principles of brain-based learning. In fact, this brain-based learning, the principle has been published by these two authors called Renata Kane and Jeffrey Kane. The paper is Understanding a Brain-Based Approach to Learning and Teaching. And the paper was published in the Educational Leadership some 35 years ago, 1990. So this brain-based learning has been there for quite some time, right? But I think somehow we are still in the infancy stage of, try to harness the importance of this and then try to implement this into our day-to-day kind of teaching kind of method, okay? So in short, I'm trying to provide a summary of these 12 principles just to give you a sense of why is it so important, all right? without going to too much detail, in fact, I will be able to share this paper with the organizer, and then we can actually disseminate with anyone interested, you know. I mean, it's in the public domain. It's nothing, no secret about that, okay. So let me go through very quickly. The first principle is brain is parallel processor. So, in fact, brain is the most complex organ in the world, okay. And the processes are interactional and concurrence, thought, emotion, memory, imagination, actually interact with other brain processes, social, and also the cultural knowledge, okay. So all these are taking place simultaneously. Second principle is learning actually engages the entire physiology. In fact, learning can be either facilitated or inhibited by physiological processes, including the neurodevelopment, the nutrition, the synaptic interaction, life experiences such as stress or trauma, and so on, okay. So in fact, nutrition, you know, having good nutrition, having a good rest, good sleep, and then exercises and all that are so important for the brain development. And sometimes we don't pay too much attention to all this, okay? And I think, in fact, I will advocate that if students themselves also get to know about how the brain functions, I think that will help them very much into this whole space about learning the brain development and the learning outcome as well. And the search for meaning is innate, okay? In fact, the ability to make sense out of experiences, including processes that latch onto the familiar and search for the unfamiliar as part of the human survival. In fact, you look at the toddler, you know, the toddler. I have 4 grandchildren. The eldest one is 8 years old at the moment. The younger one is 3 years old. And you look at the way they learn things, it's actually amazing, right? So they are very curious, they touch here, touch there, they ask questions and so on and so forth. So they are trying to find meaning, you know, of the new things actually presented to them, right? So this is part and parcel of our human survival kind of a process. And I think we should continue to enhance and facilitate this ability of learning to make sense of things presented. I think this is an important part of the brain-based learning pedagogy. The search for meaning occurs through patterning, all right? This is also very important. So the brain is part of the patterning is part of the brain meaning-making process, okay? And the brain integrates and generates patterns and in resistance to meaninglessness kind of information. So therefore, you know, when you present knowledge or information to the student in a bit and pieces kind of manner, that is actually not very good for learning, right? But if you are able to present the material in such a way that there's a structure, there's a concept map, and so on and so forth, then you find that the student can actually learn much, much better. Okay, emotions are critical, in fact, to patterning. In fact, emotion and mindset can affect learning. In fact, there's a concept called cell concept, you know, that means how the learner view yourself in this world, right? And that can actually affect the learning tremendously. And emotion is very important, right? Emotion, especially positive emotion. When you have curiosity, you have excitement, you can relate to your previous experiences and all that. All this can combine together, can help the learning to achieve much better outcome. So we should actually harness the emotion into our learning kind of process. Every brain simultaneously perceives and create parts and whole. We have 2 hemispheres, left and right. And in fact, these 2 hemispheres are interconnected. And they process information coming in simultaneously, okay? And that's also a very important point. Learning involves both the focused attention and peripheral kind of perception, right? So in the room, you find that sometimes the background information can also affect the learning, okay? And sometimes the teachers, your body language, all that, you know, it can also affect the learning, right? So you find that sometimes students look at you and you don't speak with sincerity, you know, that can actually affect their emotion as well. Learning always involves conscious and unconscious kind of processes. Okay, this is also very important. And in fact, learning goes beyond what we consciously understand. We also learn from and remember experiences as well as what we are told. The last 3 principles will be, we have 2 types of memory. One is what we call spatial memory, and one is called the root memory system. And the spatial memory is actually instantaneous. You do not need to rehearse. For example, I remember last Saturday, I was having dinner with my family member at this particular restaurant. That one you do not need to rehearse. You can remember even after so very months or weeks, right? But for the root learning part, you know, when you, unfortunately in our learning process, you know, the knowledge all that, they are come into bits and pieces kind of thing. We have to go to this root learning kind of process, and therefore you find that there's a need to involve repetition, you know, rehearsal, everything. And it takes effort to really learn, right? And I think as educators, if we are aware about this, then we can be a bit more mindful in the way we strategize our method and all that in the classroom. The brain understands and remember best when facts and skills are embedded in the natural spatial learning process. So what it means actually that if we can somehow combine the root learning part together with the spatial memory part in this learning process for the student, you find that then they can really retain the knowledge deeply into their long-term memory. And learning is actually enhanced by challenge and inhibited by threat. Okay, so this is also very important. So as teacher, I think we have to be very caring. You find that in the classroom, if the teachers are very caring type, you find that the students actually they learn much better, because you create an environment so that they can be very affiliated with you, you know, sort of in a more non-threatening kind of environment. I still remember in my early days, you know, when the students are not performing, they get punished by the teacher. The teacher will ask the student go to the class, stand there for 1 hour. So I was wondering, how would that help in the learning? In fact, you make the student more stressful, you know. Things like that have been practiced in the past, right? And which is very unfortunate, right? Which is very unfortunate. And the last sprinkler is actually, I mentioned that earlier on, is every brain is unique. Every brain is unique. So how do you teach some kind of same material to a class of 100 students or even 50 students? Because everyone comes with them with a different part of knowledge, all right? And I think now with technology, we can actually, especially with AI, we can now talk about personalize the material to suit the different learning style, to suit the different learner. So it's so important, right? So if we can combine brain-based learning principle together with AI technology, I think Professor Thomas is going to share with us some of this later on, using EduTech, you know, how we can further enhance all this. I think I'm very positive about, you know, this development. But I think it's very important that for educator to really get yourself, be fully aware about this brain-based learning pedagogy. So there are actually, to summarize all this, we can have, there are three...
Excuse me, Prof. We have another 5 minutes to go.
Another?
5 minutes.
5 minutes, yes. There are three fundamental elements of great teaching. If I summarize all the 12 principles together, means that firstly, you need to create what we call a relaxed alertness. Second one, you have to orchestrate immersion in a complex learning experience. So the relaxed alertness means that we have to create the optimum climate for learning. The brain needs to be challenged to learn, but at the same time, you must be in a relaxed mood. You cannot be too relaxed, otherwise you cannot learn, okay? And then we have to create an environment so that the optimal opportunity for the learning to take place. And this need to be orchestrated. And active processing of experience is very important, so that there's what we call metacognition. Students need to reflect on what they have been learning, and then internalization and all that, right? So these three components must be there in order for the learning to take place effectively. So basically, there are various strategies that we can use. For example, I mean, important part is actually the neuroplasticity. We need to understand that the brain actually ability to rewire and adapt through the learning experience, right? Emotional engagement is very important. I mentioned that earlier on. We have to leverage on emotion to enhance the memory and cognitive performance. And active learning is very, very important. You know, that's why you find that many universities have this so-called internship, project-based learning, experiential learning, all that. All these are trying to provide this kind of opportunity for the student to learn deeply, okay? So how the brain learn? Well, simply there are information coming in to the different part of the senses, and then typically you come to the prefrontal cortex here called the working memory. And what the brain is trying to do is actually try to make sense of the new piece of information coming in. And the way it does is actually try to recall from the long-term memory. Right? And if there's nothing in the long-term memory, the brain cannot make sense of the new piece of information, then this new piece of information will be gone. Because the working memory can only hold information for a limited number of time. A few seconds kind of thing. Right? And also the working memory has certain capacity. Right? It can only handle 7 items at any one time, on the average. All right? So we need to understand that and make sure that the working memory is working at the optimal condition, all right? And when it can make sense, then the information can then be restored back to the long-term memory. And then there will be memory formation. And then once you form the memory, you must have the ability to retrieve the information back to apply to the real world, okay? So this is actually a process which will not take place just at one go. And you need what we call repetition, rehearsal, and so on and so forth, all right? And I think as educators, we need to be mindful about all this. Okay, let me move on quickly. There are active learning strategy. There are various strategies you can adopt. I know that people have used inquiry-based learning, where students explore question and finding solution, or problem-based learning. They discuss real-world problem, or flipped classroom model, right? In NTU, we are champion in this flipped classroom model. So basically what we do is actually that. Why do you need students to come all the way to the university to attend lecture? You can pre-record the lecture, put it in the, in the web or internet. They can access anytime. Then they come to the class, you'll be sitting like here, classes sitting, and they do group discussion. The peer-to-peer learning is the most powerful way in the learning process. And then case-based learning, right? You can use case-based or you can use simulation tool to help the student to learn much better. And I talk about emotional engagement and social learning. This is actually very important. We need to be aware. Positive emotion like creativity, curiosity, this whole thing about excitement, this whole thing about relating to their personal kind of a prior experience, all that can really enhance in the learning process. Social interaction, peer-to-peer learning in this kind of setting. They discuss, they teach each other. In fact, teaching is the best way to learn. And then real-world connection, all this. Now, technology in brain-based learning, perhaps we will leave this much to Professor Thomas to share with us. I will just mention 3 points here. AI-driven personalization is a way to go, because I talk about every brain is different, and AI it can do wonder to really personalize material. All right? And then we can also using simulation tool to create this kind of digital platform to offer targeted exercises for higher order thinking to development. And then combining, the pedagogy with the technology, we can really achieve excellent outcome in this learning process. Implementation of the brain-based learning, I just offer a couple of points here. I think we need to really knowing that the brain is a multi-processor, it's a parallel processor. We have to engage the multi-sensory kind of experience in the learning, right? So you can use audio, visual, everything, touch, even smell to a certain extent, okay? That can enhance the memory engagement. We have to involve in real-world problem. That's why many universities now, they send their students for internship. They even collaborate with industry for project, all that, right? All these are very important because they can develop critical thinking. And then collaborative project, I think, learning from peers and all that is very important because they can foster what we call the social learning. And I think increasingly we should go beyond just a yearly exam. We should look into this, what we call performance-based kind of assessment, okay? Which can actually evaluate higher order project effectively.
Excuse me, Prof.
So these are things that I would like to share. Thank you very much. I know that sometimes when I talk, I forget about the time. And we can have more, during the Q&A, we can actually help to answer questions. And for those of you who would like to learn more about this brain-based learning, you can actually contact my colleague, Simon Yeo, from click at the email there. So I just stop here, sorry. Thank you very much for your attention. I'll be happy to answer some of the questions later on. Yeah, thanks very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, Prof. Well, that's very inspiring talk, Prof. We are starting from understanding how brain works and looking for maybe not the best, because people say there is no best method, but we are looking how teaching can be adjusted to how brain works. And now you also talked about how technology can actually accelerate the integration between sensory and an emotion. And I think this is the right moment to see how the understanding of the pedagogical underpinning the practice of teaching can be enhanced by the integration or the use of technology. And that's why we have Prof. Thomas Kohler here today. So, ladies and gentlemen, just before Prof. Thomas starts his talk, I'd like to briefly introduce him to you, as we are having the pleasure of having Prof. Thomas inclusive, as Prof. Thomas currently is the university professor in educational technology at Dresden University of Technology, Department of Vocational Education, Faculty of Education. At the same time, Prof. Thomas is also the director of the Media Center of Technological University Dresden. And you got so many roles here, Prof. Thomas. I have to probably read only the first two, but ladies and gentlemen, I believe you are also seeing Prof. Thomas' short bio on the screen, and I think the LO will be able to share it in a moment. But Prof. Thomas, also the managing director of the Institute for Vocational Education, the speaker of the Working Group E-Learning Advisory Council of the State University Conference Saxony. And finally, he is teaching mainly, but also chairing at the department in Dresden University. So now, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Prof. Thomas Kohler. 25 minutes? 20 minutes, Prof. Thomas, thank you.
Okay, thank you for the very kind welcome and wonderful. It's a pleasure and an honor talking to you as audience of the very interesting collaboration venue, and indeed the topic I have chosen, the topic I've chosen in coordination with our colleagues here from Yogyakarta State University is as well in relation to the focus of the conference. Doing collaboration in the context of doing cooperation or collaboration with partners from the region, but as well worldwide. And so I like to start with the introduction of activities of TU Dresden to provide a picture of what we are doing, and then in the second step I will talk about how to collaborate and what activities are especially profiled to arrange collaboration in between labor markets, even from a global perspective, and higher education, and then perhaps we have time for discussion, or we have a discussion afterwards. Let me start with TU Dresden. TU Dresden is a larger university of technology in Germany. We are top 3 in Germany, University of Excellence, and having about 30,000 students in the public and 5,000 students in the private branch. And TU Dresden is a full university, even though by heart it's a university of technology. So we have all faculties aboard, including medicine, social sciences, philosophies, but we have as well 2 schools of engineering, and Dresden is the place where the most patents at a German university are produced, more than Munich, more than in Aachen and the other University of Technology. This makes us a little bit, it's easier. Thank you. Makes us a little bit proud, and what is important for me is that at TU Dresden we are as well running teacher training program. So in Germany, everybody who is teaching at a school, independently if it is a K-12 school or a primary school or a vocational school, needs to come with a degree of master equivalent from a university, and this as well is a backbone for the quality of training the future workforce in Germany. And at TU Dresden we are running Germany's largest teacher training program for vocational education teachers with subject sections, as you can see here in on the presentation screens, in very different vocations. So we have professors teaching special didactics in the social sector, in the medical professions, but as well in the technical domains like automotive industries and so on. And I myself, I'm teaching there as a professor of education technology, as mentioned. So it's not a specific subject in terms of vocation. It's more overarching or underlying, and the focus of my research then is as well to understand how the education is changing or affected by the arrival of always latest digital infrastructures and technologies, and how this coins new types of skills, and as I would even say, new types of vocations or new types of professions. On the other hand, at the university we are focusing as well on implementing research in central research units, and I'm heading the Center of Open Digital Innovation and Participation, and here we have to focus not so much on the skills. We have as well focus on developing digital technologies, but moreover we are focusing on how the production process in any sector is going to be changed or shifted when new technologies of production are arriving. And this applies as well for our sector here at the Higher Education Institute. If we have new technologies like online conferencing or like AI or like other technology-driven infrastructures, then this means that the production of education is changing. And the question is then, what part of the production is done by machines, by computers, for example, or by the AI, or by teaching labs, and what part is done by the humans, by the teaching staff, and what qualification is needed for running those productions. So do we need to have fully trained teachers, or do we need to have tutors or mentors, or do we have some more peer-to-peer activity? And so this type of thinking is profiled at this research center and implemented in very different activities in very different industries. You may use the QR code and jump into the respective page. On the other hand, we are as well transferring our findings into different industries, especially with partners worldwide and especially with partners in Asia. And I will come to this transfer mechanisms or institutes, which is a special component of the profile of TU Dresden later on into the third step of my talk here. Our research is going to be published, of course, in open access ways or open educational resource type to make it nicely visible and available for those who are interested in. And just three more recent references that are available. So there was a book with Springer when we did a number of activities in Central Asia, so not in South or Southeast Asia, but in Central Asia, on teacher training and the profiling of vocational teachers, and jointly we produced a book available as open access on vocational teachers' futures. On the other hand, we are dealing as well with regional development, mobilities, smart infrastructures, and we are running as well trans-European projects on the focusing on how to implement innovation centers as a spin-off of higher education institutes. That what is one learning that I could get from this activity, that would be different from region to region, because the economic context and the cultural context of every region may not be the same, and then the centers may profile as well the potential outcome or output of the university in a different way, making it especially meaningful for regional development. Okay, now let's jump into a second step of my presentation. How does work and skills being transformed through digital transformation and the latest developments in terms of AI? What we can observe is that the labor market is somehow globally established. So production chains are arranged across not just regions or cities like Yogyakarta, but as well across countries or even across continents. This is the profile of, nowadays, 21st century, industries. And we can observe as well that industries are moving from one country to the next country. We have quite a strong trigger at this point in time when we see the policy of the US. Then we can already observe that some industries move from one country to the other. It may happen just almost overnight on the one hand. On the other hand, we see that those global production chains are only possible because we have a digital backbone or digital infrastructures, and the separation of physical or material and immaterial technologies and products. And of course it is much more easy with the immaterial products to be moved from one place to the other place or to be produced by bringing together work from one location with another location, because through the digital infrastructures like the internet and tools like the AI, the production, the location of the production is I would say, rather flexible and not really bound to one single place. And this means as well that the new type of production chain involving digital infrastructures is not dependent or is not bound to a single location. It may happen across different locations and involve, however, the workforce that is usually located at the place where the workforce is living or staying. And so people like us who are doing education as their work may be able to provide educational production in different locations, even though staying at home or in our home university. We are using different technologies to allow such production mode, so-called open resources or open access products, and we have nowadays even our target audience or target group, the learners, the students or the trainees in vocational context that may study and acquire knowledge, perhaps even skills from all over the globe and even from home. This creates an interesting challenge for us as educational institutes, and it triggers the global perspective quite a lot, because a student from Yogyakarta may be as well as a student from TU Dresden, and it wouldn't matter if he or she is attending my lecture, which is taking place online. Indeed, we are running our PhD program like this, and we, since 15 years, far before pandemic, far before AI hype, we've been using video conferencing technologies for distributing and for as well recording the activities and sharing this with a larger group across the globe. So there is a need for understanding the production processes in the knowledge-related industries from a organizational perspective, from an organization science perspective, in order to understand how global collaborations, global or local collaborations, may be designed and implemented by making use of physical and virtual, material and immaterial production chains in almost any branch, and as well to understand what kind of qualification is needed. We could observe a trend towards data professionals already 10 years ago approximately. Now we have a next trend towards AI professionals or AI companions, I would even say, so technology-driven partners in different industries. And it is to be expected that this process of development has not ended yet and will not have ended, let's say, next summer when everybody knows a little bit more about latest technologies. The question is how participation in those, data-driven societies may happen for private context, but as well for professional context, and who is responsible for training the not just the workforce, but the citizens. And I think here we have a very relevant task for the educational institutes, and it's not limited just to one location, to one country, or to one stakeholder that may provide respective training for those who would be enrolled, but as well for those who would just be regular citizens. So we see that community development is taking place alongside new infrastructures, and indeed the society we are living in is mediated much more than it has been ever before. So question then one may raise is how could didactic patterns look like for implementing experiences and for triggering development. And I like to highlight a few examples that TU Dresden is doing together with colleagues and partners in Indonesia, especially with the State University of Yogyakarta, the Universitas Negeri Yogyakarta. For example, we have been running on behalf of the General Directorate of Higher Education for several times a short-time program for upskilling vocational education experts from different universities and polytechnics in Indonesia. And just recently, last October, we were running the doctoral summer school of our PhD network here in Jogja, under the fine guidance of the dear colleague Professor Pruitriono, hosted by the university here with participants from more than 10 countries from Asia, Europe, Americas, and so on, as an on-site activity, however combined with an online component before and after as well. And we are just about preparing next summer school, then taking place in Europe together with partners from Indonesia, of course.
Excuse me, Prof. 5 more minutes.
Okay. Now let me jump into the final section about offers for that have been implemented together with our partners here in Asia by our transfer company, TU Dresden Institute for Further and Continuing Education, which is kind of an education consultancy. We have a focus on consulting activists in the field of different industries for training the workforce within different vocation, and we have different target groups. For example, we are running an international master program on behalf of TU Dresden together with international institutes, and for the first time, just recently, until beginning of 2025, we had a group sponsored by the ISMA program coming to us, staying with us for 1 semester, and those students, I just jumped to the slide, and those students who had been able to experience vocational education, personal capacity building, economic issues, and different areas of skill development in different industries over a period of 3 months, then returned back to the different universities they came from throughout Indonesia. And we hope that this may continue when the next such program may be launched. On the other hand, we have our focus. Is it possible? Yeah. We have our focus as well on qualifying the engineering educators with the support of the National Ministry here of Education, meaning that specialists from vocational schools or specialists from the polytechnics have been part of several rounds of such programs, and as well here we hope that this may continue, and we may offer this in the next for next batches as well. And finally, perhaps I can come to this as a last slide here. We are running and just got accreditation for that Diploma of Advanced Study for teaching staff in higher education institute with a special focus on media-related skills and digital technologies as tool for training. Before the session, we came across the conclusion with my colleague from Indonesia, that from Singapore, sorry, that we have been considered that the teaching staff at the universities usually is not really trained as teaching person due to the fact that we are rather specialists in our subject domains. However, jointly with partnering institutes from several Asian countries, we have been able to develop and even implement a short track program for upskilling teaching staff of higher education institutes. So I'm sure that one or the other aspect may be interesting for you, and it would be a pleasure for me to provide some more detail and insight during the discussion. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, Prof. Thomas Kohler. Thank you, Prof. Thomas, for sharing. I think Bapak Ibu, ladies and gentlemen, have heard a lot of collaborative programs that we can initiate. So we are here presenting our best partners so far in the 2 days of Glossy Bapak Ibu. We have presented to you our best partners with UNJ, and in the last session, the last speaker, we have Bapak Wakil Rektor, Bapak Prof. Dr. Margono MHUM, who will also share further the best practices regarding internationalization in UNJ and how UNJ is establishing, maintaining cross-border partnerships. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming Professor Dr. Margono MHUM. Monggo Bapak.
Thank you. The honorable invited speakers, Prof. Kohler, Prof. Hua, invited speakers from other institutions and other countries, and distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, it's a great pleasure for me to stand in front of you to share best practices of State University of Yogyakarta under the issue of internalization and cross-border partnership. It is evident that collaboration is the essence of human life, meaning that every country, every institution should articulate the issue of collaboration on the grounds that collaboration could establish our spectrum, which is different from different cultures, different ethnicities, different socio-cultural background, to minimize conflict across countries, universities, and others to gain a better human life. That is why today I'd like to show case in reference to State University of Yogyakarta. Nowadays, Yogyakarta State University becomes legal entity that consists of many faculties, which include Faculty of Education, Faculty of Languages, Art and Culture, Faculty of Mathematics and Natural Sciences, Faculty of Social and Political Science, Engineering, Sports and Health Sciences, Economics and Business, Vocational Studies as presented by Prof. Kohler, as well as new faculties, namely Faculty of Medicine, Faculty of Psychology, Faculty of Law, and postgraduate programs, particularly for multidisciplines. So State University of Yogyakarta consists of two issues. The first is monodisciplines, which is run at the faculties, while multidisciplines is conducted in postgraduate, with the student body of 57,000 academic platform, vocational platform, and what we call teachers professional platform that is run in Indonesia. In reference to this, State University of Jakarta to establish collaboration takes, for example, Closeship Global Partnership Forum, which is aimed at establishing our collaboration across countries, across universities, on the grounds that, as mentioned earlier, collaboration is the essence of the existence of universities, institutions, and others. This says that knowledge and innovation transfer, as presented by Prof. Kala and manifested with use of brain-based learning, articulating on left and right brain dominance, should be disseminated across countries, across universities, on the grounds that brain serves as center processing units to facilitate students to lateralize the materials. It's not only concerned with intellectual intelligence, but we embody 4 spectrum intelligences, namely intellectual intelligence, social intelligence, emotional intelligence, and spiritual intelligence. This says that university has responsibility to develop the 4 types of intelligences as manifested in 3 pillars: teaching, education, research, and the last one is community services, in reference to 17 spectrums of SDGs. This says that academic mobility for lecturers, students, international standard research collaboration, as articulated by Prof. Kala, should be part of academicians, teachers, lecturers, across institutions and education levels, starting from primary school level to higher education. This relies on the theory that cultural diversity exists in many countries, many universities and institutions, as well as global skill is very, very urgent to be mastered by teachers, lecturers, students, because now we are in the context of revolution's industry of 4.0, which is articulating on IoT, Internet of Things, IoP, Internet for People, which goes hand in hand to establish what we call revolutions of education that is characterized by learning is personalized with the use of 3 gojis: utagoji, self-determined learning practices on the part of the students; pedagogy, collaboration; and the last one is what we call cybergogy. This says that the platform 2 gojis, pedagogy and andragogy, should be rethought, meaning that should be reconsidered to have metamorphosis from 2 gojis to 3 gojis, Yutagoji, Pedagogy, and Cybergogy, should be articulated at universities and other institutions as well as the level of education. In reference to this, there are some principles of international collaboration, which include mutual benefits. And then academic integrity, inclusivity, and sustainability of the collaboration is not only concerned with signing MOU or sleeping MOU, but we have to actualize the MOU into MOA and what we call IA to establish, to maintain cultural sensitivity across universities, across countries, to have what we call legal compliance. In reference to this, there are some criteria of international partners that we articulate. Academic reputation is one of the criteria that we should articulate. Research collaboration potentials, as mentioned by Prof. Kala, in reference to the types of research, R&D, and then collaborating research practices across countries, across universities, institutional compatibility, disciplinary alignment, and then financial stability, geographic diversity is not only concerned with Asian countries, but we have to elaborate other regions, America, the United States of America, European countries, and others. Added to this, language compatibility should become the considerations of having collaboration. Last, cultural adaptability. As mentioned earlier, there are some forms of international collaboration that we could establish for our institutions. Academic collaborations, non-academic collaborations, and of course, university which is categorized as legal entity should give an emphasis on income generating collaborative engagement. Why? Because entrepreneurship on the part of the students, on the part of the lecturers, should be articulated at any universities, including legal entity university. Yogyakarta State University is one of the legal entity universities out of 24 universities. In reference to this, endless helix, pentahelix, triple helix that consists of some parties when we are engaged in collaboration should be articulated, such as government, local government, central government as the first pillar, as the first helix. The second one is universities. The third one is industries. And then mass media and other helix, in this case, society. There is on the theory that those helix should go hand in hand to establish strong collaboration. Then, State University of Yogyakarta, as mentioned earlier, as one of the legal entity that should go to be world-class university. That is why international collaboration become the first issue on the part of the leaders, top management, as well as the lecturers, that could be manifested in many activities such as joint research, joint conferences, joint publication, staff mobility, student mobility, and then we have a great number of international collaboration that we could be established. Last but not least, because I have very limited time. I ask your favor to complete the G form of how to establish stronger collaboration across universities, across countries. We do apologize for any shortcomings and inconvenience during your stay in Yogyakarta. Thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Matur nuwun Bapak WR. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Professor Dr. Margana MHum MA, and he has shared with us the best practices and policies in UNY, in our university, in establishing and maintaining cross-border partnerships. And we'd like to also, as Prof. Margana has mentioned in his talk, we'd like to show you the link to the Google form where Bapak WR and his team is doing a research in seeking the best model for sustaining global partnerships. And the QR code will be shown in the screen so that everybody can participate in the research that Bapak WR and his team is currently conducting in order to seek and explore the best model for global partnerships. I think the QR code for the Google form. This is not yet the Slido time, dear LO. So this is the Google form slides from Bapak WR in the presentation. Yes, just right before the thank you slide, you will see the Google form link for everybody to participate in the survey from UNY in order to explore or identify the best model for sustaining global partnerships. So we'd like to invite dear participants, ladies and gentlemen, Bapak, Ibu, to participate in this research by clicking on the QR code, by scanning the barcode and then participate in the Google form. Of course, we'd like to request a little bit of your time to complete it. While you can do it a bit later, we would move on with the question and answer sessions. So I think now we can present or show the Slido QR code for everybody to participate in the question and answer session. Bapak Ibu, we are opening tanya jawab. Monggo Ibu Bapak barangkali ada yang ingin menyampaikan pertanyaan kepada tiga speakers kita. We have Prof. Prof. Thomas, and Prof. Margana. And again, the visiting professors, our other invited speakers are welcome to also address questions to our renowned speakers from 3 countries. Right, so we are maybe waiting for a little bit longer for the participants to address questions on the Slido. The QR code is already displayed on screen. Kindly address your questions briefly and mention to whom you'd like to address your questions. So we'll be able to look at the Slido, but while we're waiting people to type their questions, we'd like to invite directly if anyone here would like. All right, I have seen a show of hand at the back of the right-hand corner of this room. So LO, kindly. Yes, Ibu, you are?
Yeah.
Yes, please go ahead and address your questions, Ibu. To whom?
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yes.
My name is Mia. I have questions to Prof. So I represent Indonesian language
Excuse
teacher.
me, Ibu Mia, where are you from? Which
Oh.
institutions? Thank you.
Yes, so I represent the Indonesian language teachers for foreigners in Jogja as APP BIPA. Yeah, thank you so much for the inspiring presentations, Prof. So as you said, one of the top 10 skills this year is resilience. And however, AI also sometimes makes the students are lazy to explore the knowledge, and they just type on the maybe ChatGPT and they want to have instant answers. And we here as an educator, what do you think about how the teachers can train resilience in learning but with less stress? Because also on the 10 skills that it's important to have like stress management, something like that in learning. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, Ibu Mia. So We are still waiting for everybody to send questions in the Slido, but I think we can just ask. Prof. Would you like to address these questions directly? So the questions is about how teachers should teach resilience and how students should develop stress management. I think if we'll come to AI, probably they are trying not to have stress. That's why they come for AI. But please give some responses, Prof. Time's
Thank you.
yours.
Thank you for the excellent question. I think as AI develop further, my view is actually that all university, all higher learning institutions must embrace AI in education. But I think at the same time, I think we should really have clear guidelines in terms of how we can allow the student to use AI. I think this is very important. Because at the end of the day, is that students, they are coming to the university to receive a good education, which is developing their higher order thinking skill. That is actually very fundamental, right? And I think if you should have a clear policy, that students are allowed to use AI in their whatever assignment or, in their teaching activities. But we should also, at the same time, develop clear policy that if they just go to ChatGPT or whatever to get an answer without thinking through the problems first, I think that is very bad for learning. That's very bad probably. So I think in a way, internally we have to really develop this pedagogy that, before the student are allowed to access to use AI tools to get an answer, they should have kind of discussion, among themselves, like all this group discussion, and the lecturer must facilitate that, to take place. So they have to think through the problem themselves, and even you can suggest to them that, okay, you come up with your solution in outline form, how you want to approach this. And before you go to the ChatGPT, and the ChatGPT can give you answer which you can look at answer to even refine your thinking further. I think that's the way I believe that we should actually move forward. We should not say that students are not allowed to use AI tool in this learning and teaching process, but at the same time we need to safeguard that it's a deterioration in terms of the learning outcome. So I think we have to be very clear, and I think many universities around the world, they are actually developing all this very clear policy. Like, if you use a ChatGPT, get an answer without even acknowledging that you are using this part in your assignment or whatever, it is considered as a plagiarism. It's an integrity kind of issue. It's a code of conduct kind of issue, and then they can subject to disciplinary action. So I think all this need to be actually developed, within the respective university. I think that's my quick answer to your whole thing. I hope that I answered your key point here. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Yes, I'm with you. AI, yes, but ethical use of AI for learning is important. Right, thank you. The next questions, probably Elo can help show the questions. Otherwise, all right, so there isn't any question yet on Slido. Do you think you'd like to address the questions directly, Bapak Ibu? Do you think you probably would like to move a little bit by raising a hand instead of typing in the Slido? Monggo Bapak Ibu, ada yang ingin bertanya kepada Prof. Thomas or Prof. Thomas has shared with you some programs that UNJ and TUD has done so far, and this may be replicated in your institutions. So you can just come in and ask what you think or what procedures to go with the same way of establishing partnerships as we did with TUD. All right? Monggo Bapak Ibu, if you have any questions from VP as well or invited speakers. If there is any questions addressed to any of the speakers here in front of us from Nanyang Technology University as well as from Click Education, we have Prof.
Yes.
All right, so if not, we have questions now at the Slido. That's great. So, Prof. Thomas, please.
Yes, the question. Thank you for the question about Tibet VAT program, double degrees between Asia's universities with TOD programs. Indeed, we are having a master program which is labeled vocational education and personal capacity building. And this master program has produced more than 1,000 alumni, meanwhile, from 60 or so countries. And we are having this program taught in German and English in Dresden, at TU Dresden, but we have as well institutional collaborations with partners abroad. For example, with the well-known Beijing Institute of Technology, and then the teaching takes place in Beijing, half-time and half-time in Dresden, for example. So yes, it is possible. One would need to negotiate how it, in what structure it may be implemented.
All right, thank you. Well, that's the questions we have been addressed. So now we have another one on Slido. We have questions from Bagus. Let me read this to you all, dear speakers. We have Bagus asking, when students easily solve various cognitive problems with AI. So you think Prof. Margana or Prof. would like to address this? The questions on Slido, what we do when students, can easily solve various cognitive problems with AI. How is the evaluation to detect the results of students' thinking? How we know this is not students doing, this is AI is doing it. So, Prof. Margono or Prof. first? Yes, monggo, Prof.
Well, the case happens in State University of Yogyakarta in reference to the use of artificial intelligence. That is why the policy of this university is having similarity tests, meaning that the lecturers, the supervisors have opportunity or account to check the students' work to prevent the use of artificial intelligence, although to some extent artificial intelligence could be one of the basis for inspiring. But when the product on the work of the students consists of high level of similarity, then this university policy to revise the thesis draft and other issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Bapak. So, Prof. do you have anything to say? Please.
I think this is an excellent question as well. I think at the end of the day, in fact, even there are a lot of discussion about whether we allow AI to be used in the PhD research. PhD research. I mean, just take the case to the extreme. Do you allow PhD student to use AI in the research?
Well,
I think the answer is yes, we should.
Inevitable.
We should. We should.
Yes.
In fact, if we can do it well, that is advantageous, I mean, you look at the recent Nobel Prize winner, they use AI, harness the AI to come up with wonderful kind of research outcome, a breakthrough. So I think the key here is important. So students, whether at undergraduate level or postgraduate level, I think they must be genuine to this learning process. And I think the way, in fact, many of these journals, when you submit a paper for publication, they want you to declare which part of the papers actually come from the AI output.
To acknowledge,
Yeah, from the technology or Gen AI output. And then I think sometimes they also want to look at your prompt. The prompt engineering is very important. If you can use a prompt properly, because by putting a prompt means that you are thinking, it's a higher order thinking. I can command the AI, if I exercise this carefully, I can command the AI to help me to do many things, So the prompt engineering, the way you ask a question, you pose a question, you put a condition and so on and so forth, and get an AI to help you to come up with all the data and all that. That by itself is a higher order thinking by yourself, So I think we should take all this into totality.
Yes.
And I think, as I say, the honors has to be back to the student that you have to declare, you know, which part you use AI. And some journals, you know, publications, the journal, they want you to say, they want to see your prompt process as well, you know. These are the way that I think we should really move forward, rather than say you are not allowed to use AI and all kind of thing, right? Of course, I think at the end of the day, in fact, it was quite interesting. You know, I was serving on the Shanghai Jiao Tong University in China, the International Advisory Panel. So one of the members is actually, we were 8 members, one of them is actually from US. He was a very experienced chancellor of Washington University. He's a chemistry. So he was sharing with us, you know, the recent discussion at the Shanghai Jiao Tong was about the impact of AI on education and research and so on and so forth. So he was sharing with us in the sideline that the way he does it, he said that student, you can do anything you like. But every one of you, when you submit the assignment, you must come to my office and explain personally how you arrive at this solution. I thought that was very clever. But I told him, Prof, you know, for a small group, you can do it, you know. But when you have 300 students, there's no way you can do it that way. But I think basically what he's trying to say is that you can actually develop other means to make sure that there's a great learning process taking place. Right? You can use AI to help you to do anything, but if you are not able to explain to the prof in front of him, then you don't get high mark. As simple as that. So that was quite interesting kind of thing, yeah.
So I think it's not the quick answers that we are seeking for, but the process behind getting the answers. And that's why, as a teacher educator, we are here very committed to finding how best to evaluate or to differentiate which one is students doing and thinking and which one is actually AI is doing it. But again, it doesn't mean that we have to say no to AI. We have to embrace it.
Yeah, but I think the student need to be trained also on prompt. The prompt engineering is actually very important. You know, if you are able to prompt, that means you ask, the way you ask a question, the way you pose a condition, that by itself is higher order thinking, you know. You know, when I always treat those students who are able to ask deep questions in my class. Deep question, you know. I will give them full mark, you know. I always appreciate those students who are able to ask deep questions. Because that by itself is higher order thinking.
Yes, I think the start of learning is when we can ask questions. If we cannot ask questions, we probably don't understand anything. Absolutely. Well, thank you. Great answers, Prof. And Prof. Margana. Is there any question? Any more questions? Again, we'd like to welcome VP, invited speakers, if you would like to ask or address any questions to any of our 3 speakers here. Please, 1 or 2 more questions. If you have any questions, please raise your hand and address your questions. In Bahasa Indonesia tidak apa-apa ya Bapak Ibu, I'll do help and translate for you. Monggo Ibu Bapak. All right, if there is no questions, then I think, well, that's a lot we have learned in such a short time. We have an honor actually to have Prof. Coming all along the way from Singapore. Well, I think I'm mistaken here because it's very close, but it's Prof. Kohler that I should have said. Flew long away from Germany, and I know it's such a long flight, but we, of course, are really, really honored to have you. And Prof. Margana, our Vice Rector, of course, share the same feeling as we do, and we really like to thank you for your sharing with us in today's Global Partnership 2025. So, ladies and gentlemen, I think that's the end of Talk Show Session 4. Please join me again in thanking and giving the 3 speakers great round of applause. Thank you. Mbak Putri, over to you.
Ladies and gentlemen, to express our sincere appreciation, we would like to present token of appreciation to our speakers. We would like to invite Professor Dr. Margana to give token of appreciation to Professor Meng Hua from Nanyang Technological University, Singapore, and Professor Thomas Kohler from Dresden University. Thank you very much. Oh yeah. Followed by photo session. We have now reached the closing of this event. However, this is not the end. We will now hear the closing remarks delivered by the chairperson of the organizing committee, Professor Dr. Brudi Triono. The floor is yours. Nggak ada ini.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam hormat kepada semua peserta. Dear guests, partners and friends, as we wrap up this incredible global partnership event, I want to express my deep gratitude and hope for the future. Over the past few days, I think 2 days, we have shared meaningful discussion, inspiring idea, and built new connection that truly matters. Here is in Universitas Negeri Yogyakarta, or UNY, we have brought together people from diverse backgrounds, all united by a shared belief in the power of collaboration. We have seen how working across border and discipline can lead to the real innovation and positive change. We know that the partnership formed here are not just words on paper. They are seeds of action. With continued effort, they can grow into impactful initiatives that reach far beyond this event. Together, we have taken important steps towards a more connected, resilient, and inclusive world. Thank you to our amazing speakers, our hardworking organizing team, and every partner who joined with such energy and dedication. Let's keep the moment going. Let's stay connected, keep sharing ideas, and deepen the partnership we have started. The journey doesn't end here. This is just the beginning. We know that. Wishing you safe travels and looking forward to all the great things that will grow from the we have started in Universitas Negeri Yogyakarta or UNY. Thank you and see you again soon. Jaizian for China, Jergan for Thailand, jumpa lagi for Malayu, and Bisbal from Thomas Kohler. Thank you. Selamat sore. Terima kasih. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Ladies and gentlemen, the committee has an announcement to make. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, materials and digital certificate will be emailed or announced later. Interest for collaboration can be reported at MOU Center near the stairs, and the exit ticket will be available in the screen shortly. You can scan the barcode and fill in the G form. Okay. The past 2 days have truly been extraordinary with all the activities we have carried out together. We sincerely hope that this collaboration will continue to grow, not only marked by the signing of agreements, but also through the immediate and meaningful implementation. May all of our hard work yield the best outcomes for each of our institutions. And may we bring back good news to share with our respective leaders and friends. Thank you for being an essential part of the Global Partnership Forum organized by Universitas Negeri Yogyakarta. Ladies and gentlemen, we are finally at the end of the event. We would like to thank you for everyone's participation, and we are very honored to have you all here. We also apologize for any shortcomings during the event. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Check. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is the last. We'll create our memories here. We'll have a group photo session. So, especially our esteemed speaker, would you like to stand up and come forward here? And for Bapak Ibu, I would like to invite you to rise. We'll have photo session and it will be taken from the front side here. Okay? And for the speaker, once again, please come forward here. Bapak Ibu, silakan berdiri and then plus move in the middle. Yeah, you just stand up here. Make a line here. Hah? Naik ke sini? Oh ya, oke. Dari mana dulu? Dari sini dulu. Oke. 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 Baik, Bapak Ibu yang di pinggir kami undang untuk merapat ke tengah gitu Bapak Ibu. Nih. Bapak Ibu panitia juga semua mungkin monggo kami undang semua untuk maju ke depan. LO, panitia semuanya. Bapak Ibu tamu undangan, Mungkin merapat ke tengah. Oke, Mas Dedi. Oke, Bapak Ibu, siap? Oke, everyone, please put your best smile in. One, two, three, cheese. One, two, three, once more. One, two, three. Thank you. Okay. One more time, Bapak Ibu, because the head. Yeah, okay. Now I would like to invite the guests, the participant to come on the stage supaya background close-up-nya kelihatan, Bapak Ibu. Ya, kan? Monggo, kami undang mungkin untuk naik ke depan. Monggo yang yeah. Silakan Bapak Ibu naik ke stage, akan diambil dari bawah supaya nampak background close-up-nya. Mari Bapak Ibu, please sir. One more time, Mr. Paul. One more time. Over here. Mari, monggo Bapak Ibu. Semuanya kita undang untuk ke depan. Bapak Ibu, teman-teman mahasiswa juga semuanya silakan ke depan. Silakan, silakan. Yuk, yuk, yuk. Selamat maghrib, yuk. Ya. Yang lain juga bisa di bawah, Bapak Ibu. Di bawah juga bisa, Bapak. Yuk. Yuk. Siap, oke. Oke, Mas Dedi semua masuk frame. Oke. Bapak Ibu yang di belakang badannya mungkin serong, ya, serong kemudian merapat. Oke. Pun Mas Dedi. Dan kami ingatkan juga Bapak Ibu peserta untuk mengisi QR Code. Silakan tim IT bisa kembali ditampilkan QR Code-nya. Bisa ditampilkan lagi QR Code-nya. Nah, ini Bapak Ibu, kami mohon sekali lagi kesediaannya untuk mengisi melalui QR Code. Terima kasih.